Cornette could never understand. Like, I was a New York guy who grew up on the WWF. That was the style, bro. That's what I grew up on. It's that simple, man.
Sure. Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Chris Featherstone here for yet another episode of Writing with this guy right there, Russo. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed, man. Vince Russo's in the house. How are you, my man?
I'm all right. How are you?
You know what, man? Besides back issues, man, it's a good day. Very, very productive day, man.
Yeah,
you know, it's thank you, man. It's life as a therapist is very exhausting, but wouldn't change it for the world because someone has to do it. And being a therapist is a handful, man. It's a lot of people.
But I gotta think it's very rewarding, bro.
You know, it's like I said, man, someone has to do it, and it's such a blessing to be used in that capacity, and it's really, you know, I tell this to people all the time, man. A lot of people don't understand how exhausting it is to be a therapist. I mean, I literally have to deal with people's stuff.
Oh, I can imagine. No, I totally understand that, bro.
All day, every day.
If people don't understand, like, bro, sometimes people don't understand. People know physical exhaustion. I say mental is 10 times worse.
1,000,000,000%, man. I'd rather have a broken leg than a broken heart any day of the week, man. So,
yes, I agree with
absolutely. All right, my man. Well, listen, let's talk about broken hearts, man. CM Punk got his heart broken recently on an episode of Dynamite when he got ski-washed by Jon Moxley. And this is one thing I thought about, Vince, before I tap into that. So I don't follow Jim Cornette's stuff very often. I know about the heat. Everybody in the pro wrestling world knows about the heat between Vince Russo and Jim Cornette. I actually, as a wrestling traditionalist, I agree with a lot of things that Cornette says, actually, because I think...
Yeah, bro, I just want to clarify one thing, Chris, please, because, like, I do not have any heat with Jim Cornette.
Vince Russo does not have heat with him.
It is 100% one. I just want to make. I am too old, bro, to have heat with anybody. I don't have.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes.
So it is one-sided, and I think you've mentioned that before.
Yes.
One-sided heat. So I should say Jim Cornette has heat with Vince Russo.
Yes, please.
So Vince Russo does not have heat with Jim Cornette. He's too old to have heat with Jim Cornette.
Thank you.
But, hey, look, I don't have heat with either one of them. And so I'll be the middle man, unless Jim Cornette has heat with me. I don't even think he knows me. Or maybe he does.
He would have heat with you just because you're doing this show.
Just because okay. I did hear someone sent me a link that he used the clip from one of our shows and talked about. I forgot what it was. But I don't have any heat with Jim Cornette. But I think the thing is, one thing I did notice between you and Jim Cornette is listening to, like, people will send me stuff every now and then about Cornette, and the Sportskeeda writes a lot about Jim Cornette's views on Moxley, and I'll scroll on Facebook all the time. I'm on Facebook a lot, and I'll see like different people talking about Cornette and different graphics about what Cornette said about Moxley and things like that. And I was like, you know what? Looking at this graphic of what Cornette says, Cornette and Russo agree quite a bit with a lot of things. And I'm
absolutely. There's no question about that, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, can I tell you something? And you're going to find this hard to believe. You're really going to find this hard to believe, Chris. Off the bat, one of the biggest issues Jim Cornette had with me, bro, I'm just being honest with you, was where I'm from. I'm a New Yorker. Bro, he hates New Yorkers.
Wow.
I mean, absolutely hates them. So off the bat, I represent something he despises.
Wow.
On top of that, bro, you know, I wasn't in the business for 40 years before I came head writer. I took a different road, and he really, really despises that. On top of that, I'm more entertainment orientated.
Sure.
He really despises that. It's all wrestling, bro. Like it's all wrestling, you know, related. You know, Chris, it's very funny because here's the difference, I think, between me and Jim Cornette. Bro, when you look at my wrestling background, when you look at your wrestling background, anybody's wrestling background, what is it all based on? Where you grew up. I grew up on the WWF. That's what I grew up on. So that's what I saw. Jim Cornette, you know, grew up in, you know, in Kentucky. Eric Bischoff was in Minnesota. Cowboy Bill Watts was in Texas. Jerry Jarrett was in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And bro, that's how I always looked at it because bro, all those people I mentioned, I've been in a creative room with. And when I would sit there with them, bro, and they would come up with stuff that I wouldn't necessarily do my way, I knew it was because of where they were from and where they got their seasoning and where they got their upbringing. I totally understood that. Well, like Cornette could never understand. Like I was a New York guy who grew up on the WWF. That was the style, bro. That's what I grew up on. It's that simple, man.
Sure, that makes sense. And I think when it comes to that element, you know, because me, I'm looking at two dynamics. I'm thinking of a Kentucky boy, NWA traditionalist, right? And I'm looking at a New Yorker entertainer, you know, entertainment-based person. I think that it's cool that there's a middle ground, and the middle ground is where I see really the heart and soul of pro wrestling. I think it's both elements. I think it's wrestling and I think it's entertainment. I think the casual crowd is basically allured by the entertainment factor, and I think the retention a lot of times is the wrestling stories, the stories within the wrestling matches, but also colored by the entertainment. I think that the entertainment factor colors a lot of times what is black and white when it comes to wrestling, right? And I see that. I've been watching wrestling for 35 years now, over 35 years. And so I see that. I see a lot of the wrestling element being just the black and white, being the foundation of it, and then the entertainment piece throwing in and adding color and layers to it. And I think there's beauty in both of them, actually.
Right.
And so I don't, you know, to me, I don't think that there's a either or. I think there's a both and. I think nowadays in wrestling, though, the entertainment factor is being pushed away toward the back burner. You know what I mean? And I don't like that as a wrestling traditionalist, as someone who's been watching wrestling since 85, 86. I don't like that because at the end of the day, anyone who's watched wrestling in the 80s and early 90s and even mid 90s, when you think about what brought them to the dance, it was something that was entertainment based, right? You don't just say, oh, okay, yeah, man, that catch can match between Hogan and Andre, man, that was one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time. No, when you think of wrestling, you think of Hogan and Andre, WrestleMania 3 most of the time. And what drew that in? The allure. The characters were larger than life. That was what it was
Bro,
about.
here's a perfect example. I'll never forget, man. I remember as a kid putting on a UHF channel looking for something to watch. And I remember this vividly, bro. All of a sudden, it's the Valiant Brothers and Captain Lou. And I was like, whoa. Nice. Now, bro, I'll be honest with you, Chris. If I would have tuned to that same channel and it was a wrestling match, I would have probably went right past it. But it was like you said, the Valiant Brothers and Captain Lou were so larger than life. I was like, whoa, what is this?
Yep.
And that from that day forward, bro, that was my upbringing in the business.
Yeah.
That's why I wrote the way I did. It's not too hard to understand, man.
Yeah, really. Like I when I was brought in, Hulkamania, was one of the things that brought me in. But I clung basically to the NWA just because I did like the wrestling aspect, but I liked wrestling from the storyline perspective. To me, I didn't really care about collar and elbows and tie-ups and wrist locks and headlocks. To me, it was the story behind the hero and the villain, right? So the villain is one up in the hero, just like I always say, pro wrestling is a comic book come to life. The villain is one up in the hero, and then where's the comeuppance? Here comes the hero coming back up, and then boom, the hero wins. And that's what got me from the wrestling aspect. But the reason why NWA really stuck to me, because it wasn't too carny, to me a lot. But it was the Sting. Sting was my all-time favorite wrestler. It was just some type of larger-than-life surfer guy that was just like, man, he just really brought me to it. And to me, I hated the Horsemen, because the Horsemen would always gang attack people. They would gang attack McIntyre, right? They would gang attack Sting. They would gang attack Wahoo. You know what I mean? Like all even a George South or a Manny Fernandez. You know what I mean? They would always gang attack those people, and that's, to me, is what got me to wrestling, because I was like, man, who's like, somebody do something about that. They're getting gang attacked here. They're gang attacking Ronnie Garvin, you know what I mean? And Dusty Rhodes. And to me, I was interested in the comeback. You know what I mean? The story of the comeback. The heels get it, and then where's the comeback? That's what I was waiting for. Where's the comeback?
Right.
Now with all this 50-50, there's not a comeback story when it comes to writing pro wrestling. It's just 50-50. You know what I mean? That's the reason why I've checked out a lot of times when it comes to pro wrestling.
Yeah.